What's up, everyone? I hope everyone had an amazing day of trading. We sure did. We went 5 for 5 early on in the early hours of the trading day. In today's video, we're going to take a look at basically what we need to look at for tomorrow. We're going to look at the different levels on the SPY. We're going to take a look at the bonds, the dollar, everything. You guys know the deal. All right. So without further ado, let's get started with the video. So number one, very, very important earnings will be coming out tomorrow after the close. We have Microsoft and Google reporting earnings tomorrow. So that is going to be obviously very, very important for intraday price action. Generally, what happens is that we get a run up into earnings, and essentially you could argue that this entire run up that we have on the stock market is a run up into these large tech earnings. So it could continue into the day tomorrow as well. So number two, something very, very important is going to be at 10 a.m. We have consumer confidence data coming out. So we saw that today when we had the flash services PMI data coming out at 9:45 a.m., the market responded very heavily. So I'm assuming that we will respond very, very heavily to this data release at 10 a.m. as well. So we have to be on the lookout for that also. So there's a few things to look at for the charts. All right, the 30-year bonds are continuing to fall lower, and we are very, very overextended to the downside. Of course, when the 30-year bonds are falling, the stock market should also be falling. But what ended up happening today is the stock market continued to go up, obviously, right? The dollar found some sort of a support. It fell very heavily intraday, but then found support. But it's going to be very, very interesting to see what is basically going to happen now with the SPY. We've approached this 380 level. We've touched this level of resistance. But one of the most interesting things is that this MACD level, the slower MACD line, has now just turned positive. So this orange level right here, when it does become positive, there is usually more room to the upside. So we have to see if more room to the upside in terms of stock price, but also in terms of this level increasing as well. So what ends up happening is if this continues moving upwards, two things can happen. Either the stock price continues moving upwards as well, or the stock price holds support very, very well. And this was something that we saw happen back in June. So right here, let me just fix this chart up. So you can see back in June here, or early June, we basically turned positive on the MACD here, this slow MACD line. We crossed above, and what ended up happening was we didn't have enough firepower to continue making new highs, but we held this range for quite some time, and we held levels of support. Similar, when this happened back in early July, we ended up falling a bit, but then the MACD turning positive basically was another sign that we can continue going up higher. And of course, you know, when we cross down lower, that's also a sign that we can continue going lower. And of course, it's not like a perfect indicator, but it shows the overall momentum of the market in general. And the 310.16 MACD is very, very good at because it's a faster acting MACD. It's faster than the 12 and the 26 MACD that is the standard. So what I'm assuming to happen is we should continue falling. We should continue going higher and hold these levels of support. But it is very, very heavily dependent on earnings. So from a technical standpoint, sure, that's what it says on paper. But anything can change based off of earnings after hours tomorrow. And then the big questions are going to be answered once Apple and Amazon report earnings Thursday after hours. Especially the GDP numbers come out Thursday pre-market as well. So a lot of very important things are going to happen in the next few days. And we basically just have to take that into consideration. So keep that in mind for the SPY and for the overall market, right? Obviously, everything looked very, very bullish today. We closed above this range here on the NASDAQ. But in relative to the SPY and the NASDAQ, the IWM is the biggest loser here. So whereas the NASDAQ and the SPY are basically up here, the IWM is still trading below this high here. And clearly it's the biggest loser. And because the tech stocks are getting the most love, usually what ends up happening, you know, we get a run up in tech prior to earnings. And that's basically what's happening at the moment. So yeah, I mean, moving forward, a lot of the intraday price action is going to be dependent on the news and the macroeconomic data that gets released. But overall, the trajectory of which direction the market is going to go is going to be solely dependent on earnings, essentially, and GDP that gets released pre-market, as well as all the news that happens after hours. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Make sure you guys tune into the live stream. I go live everywhere. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe on this video if you guys enjoyed it. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you.